I'll tell you what 15 years of silence sounds like. It sounds like wind through dry grass. It sounds like your own boots on a stranger's road. It sounds like nothing at all, and that nothing gets louder every year until it's the only thing you hear. I rode into Coulter Valley on a Tuesday in October, delivering a deed to a man I'd never met, working for a cattleman I barely knew. That's what I'd become by then. A man who moved because standing still felt like drowning. I wasn't looking for anything in Coulter Valley. I want to be clear about that. I was just passing through, the way I'd been passing through every settlement between the Cimarron and the Cascades, for longer than I cared to count. Then I came around the bend in the river road and saw the schoolhouse. White clapboard, fresh painted, stand of cottonwoods, gone gold behind it, and a white rail fence running the length of the yard. A board hung above the door that read Coulter Valley School, painted careful. In a hand I would have known blindfolded. I pulled my horse up so hard she nickered and sidestepped. She was on the porch. Nora Hale, or whatever name she went by now. She had a stack of McGuffey readers, but tucked under one arm, and she was watching a group of children disappear down the road toward home, the last of them kicking up a little dust cloud as he ran. She hadn't seen me yet. I sat there on that horse for what felt like a full minute, not breathing right, and I thought about turning around. I thought about it seriously. I'd had 15 years of practice at riding away from things, and my horse was already shifting under me, reading the hesitation in my hands. I didn't turn around. I don't know if that took courage or if I was just too tired to run anymore. Either way, I walked her forward, slow, until Nora looked up. She went very still. The McGuffey readers didn't fall. She held onto them the whole time, which I thought afterward was very like her. She'd always been a woman who held on to things. I stopped at the fence. I took my hat off. I didn't have a speech prepared. I'd had 15 years to think of something to say, and I had nothing. "Caleb Rourke," she said, just that. Not a question. "Yes, ma'am." She looked at me for a long time. I couldn't read her face. I'd lost the right to read it, I figured. She'd had every reason to hate me, and I knew it. I'd stopped writing in the winter of '68. Not because I'd stopped caring, because I'd told myself some kind of lie, that she'd moved on, that a woman like Nora wouldn't wait, tense that the kindest thing I could do was disappear, so she could build a life without the weight of me in it. A man who's lived too long alone gets very good at believing his own lies. "You look older," she said. "I am older. You look tired." "I am that too." She set the readers down on the porch rail. She came down the 2 steps and walked toward me, and I didn't move, just stood there holding my hat. She stopped on her side of the fence, close enough that I could see the gray come in at her temples, the laugh lines at the corners of her eyes. All the time, written plain on her face the way it was written on mine. She was 41 years old, and she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. "I thought you were dead," she said. "For about 3 years I thought you were dead." "I wasn't, I know. I had a letter from a man named Dowd in '71. He said you were riding the Powder River country, working cattle. He said you were well. I hadn't known about that letter." Something moved in my chest, something with teeth. "Nora." I kept the lamp in the window, she said. Voice didn't shake. She said it the way a person states a fact about weather. "From the night you left until about a month ago, when the glass cracked in the cold, and I hadn't gotten around to replacing it yet. Every night. My neighbor Mrs. Archer thought I was peculiar. I expect she was right. I put my hand on the fence rail, just rested it there, not reaching for her, just needing to hold on to something solid. I told myself you were fine," I said. "Told myself you'd married some steady man and had a house full of children and didn't need me showing up to complicate it. There was no steady man. I see that now. There were 2 men who asked," she said, and her chin came up a little. "I told them both no." I looked down at the fence rail for a moment, looked back up at her. "Why?" She held my gaze. 10 years of quiet strength behind her eyes. Not soft, not wounded, not angry anymore either. Just clear and steady as water over stone. "Because they weren't you," she said. And I figured if I was going to spend the rest of my life with a man, he ought to at least be the one I picked. Something I'd been carrying for a very long time came loose right there against that white fence. I can't describe it better than that. Like a knot in a rope you've been pulling against so long you forgot what it felt like before the knot was there. "I don't have much," I said. I've got a horse and a bedroll and what I was paid to write a deed to a man in this valley. That's the sum of it. I have a schoolhouse, she said, and a house behind it with 2 rooms and a root cellar and a stove that draws well. And I put up enough preserves that I've been giving half to the Archer family for 4 years because I can't eat them all myself. She paused. I've been cooking for 2 people for 15 years, Caleb. I don't quite know how to stop. I didn't trust my voice for a moment. I looked out at the cottonwoods and the river and the blue October sky above the valley walls. And I breathed, and when I looked back at her, I said, I'm sorry I stopped writing. I know. I'm sorry I talked myself out of coming home. I know that too. I'm going to need some time to be a decent man again. I've been alone a long while. I may be difficult. Caleb, she said, and there was a quiet warmth in her voice that I hadn't heard from another human being in so long it nearly undid me. I teach children. I am extremely patient. I laughed. I hadn't laughed like that I couldn't remember. It came out rough and unused, like a gate on a hinge that needed oil. And she smiled at it. And right there, against the white rail fence in the October afternoon, I knew I was done. We sat on the porch until the light went. She brought out 2 cups of coffee and we talked. Careful at first, then less so. She told me about the school, about the valley, about the Archer family, who had 7 children and a good man at the head of them. I told her about the years on the trail, the cattle drives, the long winters in country where a man could go 3 weeks without speaking to another soul. I didn't dress it up. She didn't ask me to. When the stars came out, she went inside and I heard the scratch of a match, and the warm glow of a lamp filled the window. She came back out and stood in the doorway. The glass came in from the mercantile yesterday, she said. I fixed it this morning. I didn't know why I was in such a hurry to fix it, now I do. I stood up from the porch step. I held my hat in both hands, Nora. I would like to stay in Coulter Valley if you'd have me. She looked at me for a long moment, and there was something in her face that I recognized as the thing she'd been holding on to all those years. The same stubborn, patient, undefeated thing. Then she stepped back and held the door open. Come in out of the cold, she said. Supper's been keeping warm on the stove. I went inside. That was 22 years ago. I still don't have the words for what it is to walk in from 15 years of cold and find a warm room with a lamp in the window and a woman standing at the stove who set an extra plate because she never, not once, stopped expecting you to come home. I don't suppose there are words for it. Some things are just the truest thing a man ever knew, and he keeps them close and tries each day to be worth them. The lamp still burns every night. I see to it myself now.